Welcome to the Boone Podcast. I'm Bret Boone, and today on the program, I sit down with an all-star and a World Series champion.
I sacrificed a lot to come to New York. I wanted to be a part of something special.
He made me a better player, a better person.
Roy Halladay is my guy, man. He was tough.
All right, everybody, welcome to this edition of the Bret Boone Podcast. I'm Rich Herrera. Of course, Bret's too big of a star to be on his own podcast anymore, or the commissioner's office will yell at him for tampering. So instead, you get me from the Infinity Sports Network, and we've been doing this podcast for a long time. But you know who's done something for a long time? And it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that I remember Greg Amsinger being introduced for the very first time in Orlando, Florida. They say, hey, we're going to have this thing called MLB Network. It's a 24-hour-a-day channel about sports. And I remember Bud Selig was the commissioner. He walks out in front of the entire industry along with Harold Reynolds. And that was the beginning of MLB Network. And he's been the mainstay on the network ever since. And he's joining us here on the Bret Boone Podcast. Greg, do you remember that moment?
I do, yeah. As if it was yesterday. It was the biggest break of my career. Tony Petitti was the executive producer and the president of the network, CEO, and he was handpicked by Bud Selig to start the network. He's now the commissioner of the Big Ten Conference, so he's gone on to even bigger things. And it was the opportunity of a lifetime. I worked with Tony at CBS Sports. He wanted to do an ad-lib studio platform where we dipped in and out of all the games and react in real time. He saw me do that for the NCAA tournament at the CBS Sports Network. And it was the opportunity of a lifetime. The network's been incredible. This is my 17th season doing it, which I know is hard to believe. 17 years at MLB Network.
Because people were thinking, okay, I've seen the NFL Network, but they've got enough going on with training camp. What are you going to do with MLB Network? You already had the other sports networks out there. Is there really room for it? And now there's really no room for anything else other than watching MLB Network and the job that you've done and that original crew that you had and how it's grown. And you, HR, wow, it doesn't seem like it's been 17 years.
It's crazy. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun. It's become our social life because we've had to be on TV so long, so many hours together, that if you don't get along, it's not going to work. And they did a great job of hiring wonderful people to launch the network. And so many of us are still here. That is a testament to how great of a work environment it is. 17 years, and yet I swear over 50% of the staff, at least it feels like to me, have been here since day one. So it's my second family. I spend more time many weeks with these people than I do with my actual family. So if I did not like being around them, it'd be a miserable experience. But to be on television for hours a day, if you're not friends with the people you're doing it with, it's not going to be a great show. We've had a lot of great shows.
How's the game changed in the 17 years that you've been doing? And I can't believe it because I was there in Orlando at the Disney Orlando at the Disney Vacation
Swan Hotel.
The Swan Hotel. Yeah. I was there at the time. I was working for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I'd come and hunt you down. And the network liked because I had a clipboard that said MLB Network Radio. So when I would go on the big screen TV at Tropicana Field on the Jumbotron, I'd always have that in my hand. It was like a free plug of the people in the network. Like, yeah, keep interviewing players after the ball game with that because people keep saying the logo because nobody knew what it was.
Yeah. I remember the first week of the 2009 regular season where behind home plate, where they would put the imagery of different logos of league partners, Scott's and, Lexus, whatever it was. They would put up MLB Network, the actual logo behind home plate. I was like, wow, that's the channel that I work on. And they would put that on Sunday Night Baseball. They would put that on Fox, and you would see it. And people still didn't really know what it was, but it was built around live baseball. And I think what we've learned over the course of 17 years is live games rate. And that is the gold of media. If you can have live games, and no sport has more live games than Major League Baseball. So it was a feather in the cap of the commissioner Selig at the time to build a network, to create it and do it not in a rushed way. learn from maybe some of the mistakes you saw on the NFL network, on the NBA TV side, on the NHL network, see what worked for them, kind of navigate the landscape, and then launch the way we did. And it was a record 50 million homes that we launched in. And I know cable TV is kind of changing, and we're putting media on multiple different platforms. You asked how the sport has changed. That's one major avenue of change. But I commend the new commissioner, Commissioner Manfred, for being the commissioner of evolution. I don't want to use the word change because it's still a great game, but he's evolved this game in such a massive way with all of the new rule changes that I think the popularity of the sport is at an all-time high in the MLB Network era since 2009.
You get an opportunity to do what I do on a daily basis. You get to sit there and talk baseball and learn from some of the best players to ever lace them up, Hall of Famers, but you also get to talk to guys that know what it's like to struggle in the big leagues. We'll take somebody that I covered for a long time, Carlos Pena. Los is one of my favorites, and there was times where Los was the can't-miss prospect from the Oakland A's, and then there was the Carlos Pena that got cut the last day of the season, and somebody got hurt as he's driving halfway between Tampa and Orlando, and they go, hey, Carlos, I guess we're going to keep you. He comes back, wins Rookie of the Year. When you have that kind of perspective, you could talk about the game in a different way than somebody who's just been a stud his entire career.
Yeah, he's just one of many guys that has layers of experience, and we try to tap into all of that stuff. My dear friend Sean Casey, who I'm sure you covered in your days, the mayor, who's everyone thinks of him just as this wonderful, warm, fuzzy guy that likes to laugh. But he has really changed his focus since he retired into the psychology of sports. And he leaned on mental health coaches during his playing days, and it got him through some of the struggles. And now he's a motivational speaker, and he'll go to different college baseball programs and talk about the psychology of struggling and how to align your thoughts. And we lean into that experience now because that's what his expertise is. And I love listening to Harold Reynolds, the fundamentals of infield defense and base running. That's his expertise. Dan Plesac, the psychology of a reliever and the different roles within the bullpen. He was a former all-star closer, lost his fastball, had to be a lefty specialist. Then all of a sudden he was able to throw a more refined slider, almost cutter-esque type of pitch, and he could get righties out. So now he can be a multiple inning reliever, and to have guys that faced adversity in their career and just can't miss superstars. And we had some of those guys. I've enjoyed my time working with Hall of Famers like Jim Thome and Pedro Martinez and John Smoltz. Those guys, they breathe rarefied air, right, where they didn't face as much adversity. But look, man, it's a game of failure. And if you don't have guys that understood what that tastes like, you're not relating to the majority of people watching.
What are some of the things that these guys have taught you? Like, so for the mayor, he would come on with me when I was doing pre and post game shows, and he would say, we're hunting fastballs. You talk about organizing a strike zone. You talked about him and the mental side. Give me a couple tidbits that you've learned over the years from some of these guys that you lean on a nightly basis.
I mean, it's so many. I could rank them. My favorite all time was I'm on television with Pedro Martinez for the very first time. And Mike Trout, this is peak Mike Trout. Mike Trout owns baseball, best player in the game. And we're doing a live look in, and Trout hits a home run. And Pedro punches the desk, and he goes, my goodness, how many times are they going to throw to his waggle?
I know the story.
What? Wait, did you say waggle? And he's like, yes, it's waggle. He hits a low fastball, and that's his sweet spot. But every hitter shows you where their sweet spot is. I go, no, that's way too simple of analysis for that to be true, Pedro. There's no way that's true. He goes, Greg, I would stand on the mound and let every hitter show me their waggle. And wherever the barrel stopped when they were waggling their bat, that is where subconsciously they wanted me to throw the pitch. So I just avoided that location throughout the entire at-bat. So as brilliant and as amazing as Pedro Martinez was in his career, I made my research staff for the next 2 days look up the batters that face Pedro the most, and then look at their sweet zones, and then replicate where they are in the batter's box when they're doing their waggle. If it's Mark McGwire, it's that low barrel. If it's Albert Pujols, it's that high barrel. And he was absolutely right. Without any data to back it up, without any StatCast information, without any Ivy League front office executives with an iPad in their hand walking him through it, he was 100% right. And what I've come to learn is the great ones are instinctual. The great ones are watching. They're using their senses, their humanity to figure out the game. The guys that need the iPad, the guys that need the guy that's in their ear to walking them through the pitch sequence, the guys that need, the rap soto and then we're going to get their spin rate up, they can be good. I'm not saying they can't be good. They can make millions. But the great ones use their instincts to take them to the next level.
It's so interesting because when we get Aaron to join Bret on this podcast and they start talking about these things, and now Bret's experiencing this with the Texas Rangers. So Bret is about as unsabermetric as he possibly could be. And Arnie embraces it because he understands working for cash for so long. And then I'll have a conversation with Bret about all of these things because I worked for Oakland during Moneyball, and I was at Tampa Bay with Andrew Friedman, so I get some of that stuff. But you're right. When you look at this game, there's so many different layers to it. It makes it so interesting. What you do at MLB Network is so great because you could take me through the slice of an onion, through the layers of an onion, top to bottom. If I just want to watch where the ball is, if I want to watch from a pitcher's perspective, you got all those great pitchers over there. If I want to talk from a hitter's perspective, if I don't want to talk from a front office perspective, if I want to talk from a fan perspective, I could watch all of that. And especially this time of year, and we're going to get into the standings right now. You have a little bit for everybody. And you remember Tony Kubek when he did Game of the Week? He'd say, for you kids at home, this is what you look at. And he could talk to everybody and everyone could understand at a different level of how much they love this game and how far down the rabbit hole they want to go with the game.
Well, look, there are certain broadcasters that understand that you have to talk to the 80%. So 20% are the rabid baseball fans. Those are the people that tune in all the time. When I'm live on the national pregame show with Harold Reynolds and Dan Plesac Monday through Friday, I'm trying to get the casual fan who might be sitting in the living room with the hardcore fan that's going to watch us no matter what, right? Because they love the game. I'm trying to get the casual fan to smile and go, I'm into this conversation. They might not know the three relievers that blew the game last night for the Tampa Bay Rays. They might not know who anybody is. But if they can start to slow drip like our conversations, I'm trying to pull in the 80% of casual sports fans. I feel like that's my job. I think Tony Kubek did such a great job of that. Tim McCarver was wonderful at it. He wouldn't get lost in the X's and O's, right, of the front office speak, which I think he knew, right?
Right.
He was a great catcher, worked with some of the greatest pitchers ever. He understood his role, which is to bring everybody in the living room onto this baseball train and have them all enjoy the ride. I think about that all the time, and I don't want to use the word folksy, but I want to be conversational in a way that makes everyone comfortable, because this sport, as you know, like you said, the layers of the onion, you can easily lose a lot of people who just aren't following along and don't understand what's going on, because it's a science. Baseball can be shredded into a high-end science. In many ways, that's what it's become. But I'm trying to make it a conversational sport that still has so much fun nuance that everyone can enjoy, not just the hardcore baseball fan.
It's so amazing when you talk about Tim McCarver. The best version of Tim McCarver for talking baseball was never on television. I actually I was going to go interview him for the pregame show once, and he said, meet me down in the TV truck, so it's a pre-production before the game. And you've done games, you know what it's like sitting inside that truck. He's standing there telling the camera, I want you to look for this, I want you to look for that. He orchestrated the whole game for the crew and what they were going to talk about, and it was the greatest baseball lesson I've ever heard in my life, just watching Tim McCarver tell the director, the producer, camera guys, get the graphics ready, give me this. It was amazing watching his overall breadth and knowledge of the game, and then I think you guys bring that on a nightly basis.
Yeah, and what he did was, you can be smart and conversational at the same time, right? So he wants the game, the imagery, the graphics to be high-end smart. Then let him relate the information to the audience verbally in a way everyone can digest it. So there's this balance to broadcasting this sport. And I think the great ones did it and do it at the highest level, which is you want everyone to be included. And I've watched shows on other networks, maybe even on ours, where it just gets too in the weeds, where it's only the hardcore that understand what's going on here. And we don't want that. The goal I always try to keep in mind is we're growing this game. I want more people to go. I want to go to a baseball game this summer. I might collect baseball cards. Whatever it is, we have to be caretakers of the sport. And I tell everyone that. Whoever has a role behind the scenes, if you work for a team, if you work at a ballpark, whatever your role is, if you're a player, if you're a front office executive, you can all make your fortune. Everyone, I wish nothing but the best. I hope everyone has immense success. But while you're going for it, if you're working in the sport, you should also be a caretaker of the sport. Root for it. Hopefully it does well to grow the game and really become the national pastime once again.
You know, when you talk like that and you realize how important this game is to people, you know, something little. I remember Ballpark Cam. When Ballpark Cam first came on, everybody pushed back. Players, I don't want that thing in the dugout. I don't want to be around it. Don't ask me. I remember PR guys like, hey, can you go do Ballpark Cam to be on MLB Network? And the players like, I don't know what that is. Get that away from me. I used to do the post-game interviews, and we put them up on the Jumbotron. And I remember players not wanting to do the interview because they didn't want their opponents to hear talking about just beating them. They were going to be embarrassed. Do I show the other team up? Now everybody does it in baseball, but you were on the cutting edge, and you're one of the guys that made Ballpark Cam as successful as it is. You personally, Greg, I give you the credit for that. Tell me about Ballpark Cam and how that's opened up the game to fans that didn't have that opportunity to hear from a player intimate, relaxed before the game starts, and you're able to get the personality of the game, which I think we sorely need to do more of.
It's a great question because Ballpark Cam gave access that I don't think we ever saw before. To have a image right before the first pitch of all of the guys in the dugout high-fiving, doing their pregame dance, seeing the camaraderie, or maybe sometimes the lack thereof, I think is incredibly important. So I'm glad you brought up growing that aspect of the game because the players didn't buy in immediately. What we had to do, and this is very important to remember, when we launched, we only had Ballpark Cam in the home dugout. I think that's still the case, the home dugout. So to have a visiting player before a game do an interview, or after the game, they're the hero, have to walk over to the opponent's dugout to do that interview, that is a tall order. Over time, they've grown to do it and like it. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that they watch their other peers and contemporaries have fun. Those interviews, you can't grind the player out. You have to have fun with the player. You have to make them laugh. You have to make sure, and that's a hard thing to do sometimes.
Right.
They had to enjoy the experience because for them to walk over, and then the one thing that every clubhouse had our network on. Every clubhouse has MLB Network on the TVs. So when they see a player walking over to Ballpark Cam after a game and they're on live on MLB Network, they want to see if they're having a good time doing it. And that was a very important aspect to the early interviews we did with that technology, is to make sure the players walked away going, that was a good experience. Because that was the only way we were going to grow that part of our network.
Now, who would have thought all these years later, Greg, that now we have these celebrations after home runs, and the Mariners got their trident, guys have cowboy hats, jackets. None of that would have taken place without Ballpark Cam. None of that would have taken place without MLB Network.
Now they're putting on a show for Ballpark Cam. They know it's always on.
Right.
So whatever their celebration is, I mean, just think about the New York Mets. They literally pose at it. They're not waiting for someone to go, hold on, let's fix the lighting. All right, in the count of 3, 2, 1, we're going to snap a picture. After they hit a home run, they all get into a group photo and then pause and smile, knowing that the Ballpark Cam is rolling on them the entire time. So they're utilizing the access to have fun with it. It's the evolution of the sport, and that's what Commissioner Manfred did such a great job of. Some of these rule changes, there was so much pushback with the traditionalists of our sport. There's no clock in baseball. That's one of the great parts of baseball. You know, you can't have limitations on how many times you can throw over to first base. That's terrible. But well, once you implement it in the minor leagues, young people just adjust to things. Young people adjust to things faster than people my mid-40s. They just adjust quickly. And as they get into the big leagues, they're used to things. And now there's no problem. No one even talks about the pitch clock anymore. You rarely even see it ticking down to 5 on broadcasts anymore. So I think Commissioner Manfred knew that there was a way to evolve the sport that would eventually be so smooth that no one would even understand that there are rules put in place. 5 years from now, there'll be youngsters that love the game that are 10 years old that will never know there was a day that there wasn't a pitch clock. Wait, you're telling me games normally went 3 hours and 15 minutes? Are you serious? So to me, it's understanding human nature, and baseball leaned into that. And now we're seeing the evolution of the game.
And a lot of that I will again, and you're going to be too humble to say this, but I think a lot of this goes to your crew, your show that's opened up so many doors for so many different people that's changed the game of baseball. Speaking of the changing of the game of baseball, what did you all think when you heard that Bret Boone, the podcaster, was going to the Texas Rangers? And I love telling him that because you know how Boone is. You go, oh, yeah, I like the way that you're described. Either former podcaster Bret Boone or Aaron's brother got a job.
Well, listen, the guy could hit, right? He could hit. And Bruce Bochy wanted someone that was a great communicator. That's what Bruce Bochy is. The podcast helped. Sean Casey's podcast helped. If you're watching Sean on a podcast, which Aaron Boone is good friends with Sean, to watch him talk about the tendencies of current big league hitters right now, to watch Bret talk about some of the tendencies that he's noticing in the game in terms of approach, right? If Bruce is watching this and he likes the look, if there's anything about Bret, he's incredibly entertaining. To listen to him talk is entertaining. And when you've got a ton of information to give players, the last thing you want to do is make athletes feel like they're taking a midterm exam. But if you can find a respected voice, a voice that those players know has been through those battles, has had to face a Randy Johnson in his day, right? Had to grind with an 0-2 count, bases loaded, 2 outs in the ninth, right? And keep the rally going. When you've got a trusted voice and he's up to speed with everything that's going on in the game, which he was doing through the podcast, and he's entertaining to listen to, right? All of a sudden, you mix all that up and you're going, this guy, this voice might take some of the pressure out of the room. This voice might make the information we're trying to get these young hitters to digest a bit easier for them to skim through. So, look, I'm not shocked that the Texas Rangers, without Evan Carter in the lineup, Marcus Semien in the lineup, Corey Seager in the lineup, Adolis Garcia in the lineup, Jonah Himes missed a lot of time. I'm not shocked that the Rangers, all those guys, are a couple games out of the playoffs right now. Because when you have young players who they're moldable, right? The veterans are hurt. Evan Carter's a young guy, but the other three are veterans. The young guys want to listen. They're sponges. And I'm not shocked that the Rangers, as we sit here today, are 3 games out of the last AL wildcard spot. I think Bret's done a great job.
Well, it's so funny because you talk about how the game has progressed, and now we have all these other things. He's just regressed the game. Hey, guys, we don't need to have 18 hours of batting practice. Guys, he said, I don't know if you caught this or he told you this. One of the first things he did when he took the job was, hey, guys, get up here on the rail and watch the game. Let's watch the game together. So he told all his hitters, hey, I want you up on the rail. Let's watch to see what's going on. And the guys are like, oh, okay. They're looking at, they're in the cage hitting in the middle of the game. They're looking at their iPads. He goes, how about we just watch the game and see what the pitchers are doing? And all of a sudden things start clicking. He starts making the game less complicated. He declutters things. So in a way, he's gone old school in a game that's going new school. And it's a perfect combination down in Texas.
What he can bring to a marathon party, which is a baseball season, is the ability to make it fun.
Yeah.
And that still matters. And a lot of front offices don't understand that a marathon, which is what the sport is different than a sprint. And you need humans that are glue guys. You need humans that when they walk in the room have energy and a smile every day. Every day. Hard to find that. No one quantifies that. There's no stat for that. But when Bruce Bochy, who's won 3 rings, has seen what works, understands that even if Jake Peavy doesn't have Cy Young stuff anymore in his career, that guy brings the energy and a smile and a gravitas to the clubhouse every day. That's value. We need to go get him, right? He understands what it takes to get humans to survive the marathon. And I think that's why he got rid of his hitting coach and called a guy who brings the party for 162, and that's Bret Boone.
Has Cliff Floyd ever told you the story about the Ed Hardy t-shirts?
No.
So, Cliff, towards the end of his career, is in Tampa Bay. 2008, the Rays go to the World Series. And we had Don Zimmer on the staff. And remember the Ed Hardy t-shirts? And they're stupidly, ridiculously expensive t-shirts. Of course, big leaguers want to buy them. And they're buying these t-shirts. And Zim's like, what are those? And they told him, oh, yeah, these are expensive t-shirt. And he kind of, and then, how Zim was. They did a road trip. And you talk about glue guys because it is a grind. You know what it's a grind. You're in there every day. You understand. You tell your family, hey, I'm going down to Florida, going to Arizona for spring training. I'll see you after the World Series because that's the grind that you have is really the face of MLB Network. But Cliff said we're going to do a Ed Hardy t-shirt road trip because they hadn't done themed road trips. Everybody has themed road trips now. So Cliff says, hey, we're going to do Ed Hardy t-shirts. And all the players like, yeah, the younger kids that didn't have any, like Cliff said, don't worry, I'll buy you Ed Hardy t-shirts. So he gave some money to the clubhouse guys, and Westy down there got everybody Ed Hardy t-shirts, including Don Zimmer. So here's Don Zimmer, Popeye, wearing an Ed Hardy t-shirt. He has no idea why he's wearing this, but every kid's wearing it. And all of a sudden the team just relaxed. The new guy, Cliff Floyd, he was hurt, end of his career. But I'm telling you, those Ed Hardy t-shirts made the difference, and they forgot that they were supposed to be afraid of the Red Sox. They forgot they were supposed to be afraid of the Yankees because they had never won anything. And he takes them all the way to the World Series because of a glue guy like somebody you work with on a daily basis. I worked with him in MLB Network Radio, Cliff Floyd. I tease him. He looks like a male model because he lost so much weight since his playing days.
He's one of my dear friends. My son is a really good golfer. He's 15 years old, and he basically calls him Uncle Cliff. He's at our house all the time. It reminds me of a story. I have a 22-year-old daughter, her college basketball career. She played Division III basketball. She was a great high school basketball player. And I would tell her when she was in middle school, because coaches were really big on plays, run the plays. And the one thing that, girls basketball, women's basketball, they actually listen, right? They execute the sport. But I found that my daughter was like she started to overthink things. And her athleticism was limited, and she was really worried about the play. And I could just sense that she wasn't maximizing her athleticism. And I remember coming to her and I go, all right, Vanessa, I'm coming to your game today, but I really want to watch you play. And she's like, well, my game starts at 4, so you'll watch me play. I go, no. I don't want to watch you think, Vanessa. I want to watch you play. So when you were little and you'd be playing toys in your bedroom, Vanessa, I never worried that I'd walk in there and you'd be frowning and you wouldn't know what to do with one toy compared to the other toy. You were so good at playing toys. Like, you were amazing. You never lost a game playing toys because you're smiling the whole time. I go, when I show up to watch you play back, that word just gets overlooked. All of the people on the field, or on the court in this case, should be having fun, because if they are, they'll be playing at the highest level of their capacity. So I want you to somehow figure out a way to play basketball today. Play it. I want you to smile, have fun. Because when you smile, you're a bit more athletic. I don't know why, but it's almost like a dog's tail wagging. You're just more rhythmic. It's just you got a light pep in your step. So when I watch baseball players who have been great their entire life at this sport, they get to the big leagues. A lot of them drafted out of high school. They'd never faced any adversity. They were the superstar of every team they ever played on. They get to the big leagues, and now all of a sudden we want them to become Ivy League students. Here's a ton of information. You better start thinking. And I don't understand why we do that in the sport. Manny Ramirez is one of the brilliant hitting minds ever. Manny Ramirez basically was like see-ball, hit ball. And he would spit on pitches that or act like that he got him way out in front. Oh, man. And sit on that exact same pitch later in the AB. Like, it was a cat and mouse game that he had fun with, and he was an amazing hitter. So I really think athletics is connected to playing, and playing is a word we really need to sink in all of our young people into. We really need to make sure they understand the word play and smile go hand in hand.
So Bryce Harper should have copywritten the two phrases "clown question, bro" and "make baseball fun again," because that's basically where we are right now with this conversation.
Yeah, man. Look, I don't know if the clown question thing is, I think, symbolic of athletes now having a voice in media. They're all on social media, though. I do think that, yeah, let's make baseball fun, because it's everyone can play it. All shapes, heights, sizes. Everybody can play it, and everybody can be good at it.
So I'm living in Richmond, Virginia. I went to the ballpark here. 40 years is closing, so I went to the last couple of games. There's this little kid in front of me, and I watched him have more fun than I actually watched the ball game, because he had his little bat, and he had his little glove, and when the Richmond Flying Squirrels were up to hit, he was in there like a hitter, pretending he was part of the team. They're in the field. He'd go put his bat down next to his dad, and he'd stand there in the aisle, and he had his glove, and he was ready to go. He just had fun, enjoyed the game.
That is everything I want kids to think. I want to make kids smile and laugh when they watch the national pregame show, because that's the 2-hour window, 3-hour window that I have on MLB Network every day. It's a platform that I try to grow the game with, and I don't try to be the smartest on-air baseball voice in the game. I don't try to win an argument. Sometimes it looks like it, over Dan Plesac and Harold Reynolds. I'm trying to get young people to really have fun talking about baseball, following the stats of baseball, idolizing their favorite players of baseball, all the things I did. That's why one of the shows I have on weekends called Carded, I fell in love with baseball through baseball cards. And when you see my office, I mean, I've got stacks and stacks of baseball cards everywhere in my office. I try to make my office look like a 12-year-old's bedroom, because that was one of the happiest places in my life, was growing up and just, collecting. I mean, look at this. I've got a laminated St. Louis Cardinals, these random St. Louis Cardinals players all sent to me. Like, I love the game, and I want to spread that like wildfire to other young people in this country.
It shows. All right, I do want to ask you about the standings, but something popped in my head that I do have to ask you, because Brett and I are pretty competitive. When we argue about everything. When Aaron and Brett argue, it's competitive. When Bob gets in the argument with the boys, it gets competitive. When Matthew Boone, who is the highest drafted Boone, gets into the argument, it gets even worse. We did a podcast last Christmas where they all went to Mexico together, and the entire family came on the podcast, and it was competitive just being on the show with us. How competitive and how I don't want to say vicious, but I know everybody on your set, yourself included, because you're a grinder. When you guys get into those discussion, how intense do those discussion? How competitive are some of the guys that you have on the set with you? Because they're all winners, and they wouldn't be there if they weren't alpha males.
Listen, I think Mike Lowell is one of the smartest baseball voices in the game. Former World Series MVP with the Boston Red Sox. Terrific defensive third baseman, right? Has some big clutch hits. He's a great player, really good player. And he just, talks about the AL MVP race and says Aaron Judge's OPS is almost 200 points higher. I mean, his on-base percentage, his batting average is higher than Cal Raleigh's. And I never played. Raised my hand immediately. I never played big leagues. Never did. No. But I tried. I wasn't good at it.
Mm-hmm.
If you paid me, Greg, $100, catch a high school baseball game. No way. I'm not putting on that gear, foul balls off my face, and the kid throwing 83 miles an hour, slider in the dirt, hits me in the hand. Nah, I'm out, right? First off, squatting stinks. I don't like doing that. I'm 6'5", I have bad knees. It's painful. So I don't understand, as someone that played a little bit like me, watching Cal Raleigh out-homer the most prolific home run hitter ever, and there's a stat that backs that up, at bats per home run for your career. Aaron Judge is at 10.6. That is the fewest at-bats per home run in the history of baseball. Third on that list is Babe Ruth. Fourth on that list is Barry Bonds. Only Mark McGwire, fewer at-bats per home run. We know Mark McGwire had a little help to get to that prolific stat. So take that away. Aaron Judge is the most prolific home run hitter of all time. He's still in his prime, by the way. He's still in his prime. He's had a healthy season. A catcher is out-homering the most prolific home run hitter ever in that home run hitter's prime. And because his batting average is under 250, because his OPS is 200 points lower, we're saying that Aaron Judge is more valuable than Cal Raleigh? Cal Raleigh, who won a platinum glove just last year. This is not a bad defensive catcher. This is a guy who catches the majority of all the Mariners games. This is a guy who spearheaded this team to 9 straight wins, a guy that's helped this team probably going to win the AL West, okay? There's value in a catcher doing something we've never seen before. So I do get animated, and I came at Mike a little hard, and I just think it's a lazy analysis to go. He's got his OPS is 200 points higher, man. Like, his batting average is way higher. Not all stats are created equal. Right. And as you know, you covered the game for a long time. It's a marathon. Catchers, their legs, which is their power, it wears them down. So the second half of the season, they're tired. So for Cal Raleigh to hit 54 home runs, at this point we're taping this, and tying Mickey Mantle's switch hitting single season home run record, I'm sorry, what are we talking about? It's Cal Raleigh is AL MVP, and then it's everyone else.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's go round robin because I know you got to get to work. I just want to run through the divisions because if I don't ask you this, Brett's going to yell at me later today. American League West, what are your thoughts?
I think the Mariners are going to pull it off. Their young starting pitching has been underwhelming, but they're starting to right the ship, and that entire lineup is so long. Randy Arozarena on down. Julio Rodriguez has been really good hitting behind Cal Raleigh. I think the Mariners are going to outlast the injury to Yordan Alvarez. That ankle injury yesterday is monumental. And I think that injury alone solidifies the Mariners are going to win the division.
Let's go to the East, American League.
The Blue Jays. And don't overlook the kid that debuted last night. Savage, the former ECU first-round pick, high release point, throws a nasty split. If there's one weakness to the Blue Jays, it's their bullpen. Losing Yimi Garcia was a huge loss for them. If this kid goes in the pen drafted as a reliever, some thought like weird mechanics he would never start. He was a reliever in the minor leagues before this year in the minor leagues. Listen, I think he could be the X factor in that bullpen that they need Jeff Hoffman to settle down. You had a strikeout machine, 14 K per 9 in the minor leagues this year. I think that's really the only blemish. Bo Bichette being out, they're better defensively with Jimenez playing short. I know Bo's been a terrific offensive player, but they've been do nothing but winning since he's been on the IL. So I was initially concerned about his knee. I'm not that concerned anymore. I think the Blue Jays are going to win the East.
Say something about the New York Yankees because Brett and Aaron's mom, Sue, is probably going to watch this. So if I don't ask about the Yankees, she's going to get mad.
I like the Yankees team. I think they still could be the team that goes to the World Series. Cam Schlittler has to be an X factor. He pitches tonight as we're taping this. This is a rookie that they're going to need to be pretty good. I don't think he's a bullpen piece. I think they're going to need him. I like him more than Will Warren. So you split up the lefties. I believe in doing that in the postseason series. Max Fried, Schlittler. Then you go Rodon to Luis Gil. I love that. That could be good enough. I'm worried about Luke Weaver. He was an X factor last year in October. He's been struggling the last 10 outings, which I'm very concerned with. But Bednar was a great acquisition from the Pirates at the deadline. Even though the Blue Jays could win the East, I still think the Yankees could be the team that goes to the Fall Classic.
Okay, so Sue and Bob, I know you're watching this, just so we make sure that the whole Boone family understands managers supersede hitting coaches in the heart of the Boone family. All right, the Central with the Detroit Tigers have a big lead. Give me your thoughts.
I think the Cleveland Guardians have been an incredible story the last 2 weeks. Stephen Vogt, I give him a lot of credit. You take Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez out of that lineup, their team as a team barely hitting over 200. With both guys in the lineup, they're hitting over 220 and still the worst batting average of any team in baseball. Yet here they are within a striking shot of getting into the AL wildcard mix. So I commend them, but I think the Detroit Tigers have just built too much of a lead. I have a lot of concerns for the Detroit Tigers. I don't know if they've really – Casey Mize, maybe he is the game two guy. Jack Flaherty scares me. He'll be a Jekyll and Hyde type of performer. The Finnegan injury in the ninth inning, who they acquired from the Nationals, I think is very important. But they got this far with Canely and Best as their mix and match setup guys. I like the Tigers, obviously, to win the Central, but I don't know how far they're going to go in the postseason.
Jump over the East. Give me your thoughts on the NL East. Phillies have already clinched.
The Phillies have major issues with the lack of Zach Wheeler for the year, who's their game one guy, and then their table setter. The problem with the Phillies is they get base to base come postseason play, so they're just standing around waiting for a homer, and that can be hard when bullpenning comes into play. Guys spinning the baseball with high velocity, hard to hit those guys out of the ballpark. So Trey Turner was massively important. Hitting 305, almost 40 stolen bases, one of the best runners in the game. That hamstring injury is going to turn him into what he was his first year with the Philadelphia Phillies, was guys trying to hit a home run. So I'm worried that their table setter, their guy, their ability to manufacture a run isn't going to be the same when he does come back. So as happy as I am for them to figure out the ninth inning with Johan Duran, who's been terrific since they acquired him, I still think that the injury to Wheeler and Turner are going to come. Those are going to come back to bite the Phillies.
All right, real quick, the Central.
Brewers, what a year, man. And I love their style of play. We don't talk about that. It's so funny. In college basketball, we talk about style of play, right? In college football, style of play. Teams that run and gun, throw for 500 yards. Baseball, we don't ever do that. We don't talk about style of play. Brewers' style of play is beautiful. They don't strike out. They're terrific defensively. They run the bases, and they got pitching for days. Their starting pitching is outstanding. Freddie Peralta's the most overlooked ace in the entire sport. I think Jacob Mizorowski is going to be used as an X-factor reliever. Remember I said that. I don't think they're going to make him a starter. And I think the Brewers are going to be a tough out. They're a tough out come postseason play.
Okay, how about the West of the National League?
Man, we're waiting for the Dodgers to collapse and the Padres to take over, but for some reason the Padre lineup is one of the weirdest things I've seen. They haven't hit home runs this year. No. And they've been out-homered in so many series at home by other teams, by visiting teams. So it's a very odd season. Michael King's got way too much pressure to come back and be a Cy Young contender. I just don't think it's going to happen. And don't overlook the Jason Adam injury. He was their best reliever in a bullpen that's got more depth than any bullpen in baseball. He had a sub-2 ERA when he was lost for the season. So I think the Dodgers will outlast the Padres. Mookie Betts figuring it out again since the All-Star break is massively important. But once again, it'll be the Dodgers in the West.
Greg, I appreciate you taking time joining us. By the way, has Bret sent you a Bret Boone podcast T-shirt yet?
Not yet. I don't know what the deal is, man.
Booney.
Anyone can send it to MLB Network. I mean, the address is a Google search away.
Is Sean Casey giving you a mayor's office gear?
Yes. I got like mayor's office visor.
Yeah. Okay, so Boone, I understand you're not allowed to talk about the other teams, but at least you can give the guy who's responsible for making ballpark cam common fare so we get to see your money. By the way, they show him way too much on television. Because Sue and Bob have the televisions on, because I think you know this. It's Sue and Bob's house. They have multiple televisions so they can watch the games. So they've got Aaron on the big TV, and then they've got Bret on the other TV, and then they got the Braves games so they could show Nicky Knox, their grandson-in-law, the Nick Allen of the Braves, and then whatever random game they have on. So, and then they have MLB Networks. I think they have 4 TVs in the house now, if I'm not mistaken. So one's always on.
Good living.
Yeah. So the Boones watch that all the time. Way too much of Bret Boone on television for my taste. And then the guy who's responsible for all this, Greg Amsinger, doesn't have a Boone podcast T-shirt. This is criminal.
Listen, man, this is the third time I've been on the Boone podcast, the Bret Boone podcast, so I got to step my game up. Clearly, I haven't reached a certain level of performance. When I get to that level, who knows? He's the ultimate critique. He's the boss of this podcast. If he thinks my performance in this episode reached the level that's worthy of a T-shirt, I might get it in the mail.
I'm just saying, Bret. I mean, you stick my man Greg, who is the face of MLB Network, and you're not going to say that I can, but I will say it. You're too humble to say that. You make him go with the B teamer today because you're too busy to talk, and you don't even hook up my man with the T-shirt. I'm just disappointed, Greg.
Well, I appreciate you standing up for me. I really do appreciate it, Rich. Thank you.
No, listen, I am a huge fan. I've always been a huge fan of yours ever since the very beginning. Like I said, I feel like I've got a special relationship with you because I saw you come out that very first time, and people throughout the industry, folks, I got to tell you, there's like 2,000 people in a grand ballroom at Disney's Dolphin Swan Resort. The commissioner had been there all week, and we had meetings every day, and they had all the top executives come out in every field in Major League Baseball. And then the piece de resistance for the whole week of the industry meetings was meeting Greg Amsinger, and you've lived up to every bit of that moment. So I'm going to tell you on behalf of baseball fans everywhere, thank you.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. I love what I do, and I want it to look that way when I'm on with my favorite guys. All my coworkers are my best friends in life. So I'm a blessed man, and I've loved the game since I was a little boy. So to work in it is a dream come true.
It is authentic, and that's why we enjoy it so much. Greg, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's it for the Boone Podcast. Bret, get this man a T-shirt. We'll talk to you again, everybody.